All right, guys. So there was a big thing that happened recently in the world of finance and the world of crypto. It involves FTX, which is one of these big crypto exchanges, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Crystal. Tell everybody what the deal is with this.
Okay, so FTX, which was founded and run by a dude named Sam Bankman-Fried, which is relevant because this was a guy who was throwing his weight around in DC. He was flooding Democratic primaries in particular with money behind his chosen candidates, including, for example, Shontel Brown against Nina Turner. His firm, he has two. He had this crypto exchange, and he also had this sort of like crypto fund that would place all these investment funds that would place all these like big risky bets, okay? And that was called Alameda. So apparently what happened is Alameda got upside down and they were kind of strapped for cash. And so what they decided to do was to raid the customer accounts that were at this investment exchange and use that money to go ahead and continue funding their risky bets. Well, guess what? They lost that money too. And so there started to be, people started to get a feeling that something was going wrong here. We knew FTX was in financial trouble. The other large crypto exchange initially came in and said, we're going to acquire them. We're going to do a cash infusion. And then after they did their due diligence, the CEO of that fund came out and said, their problems are beyond what we can do to help. And that's when the bottom really falls out. So you have what was effectively a classic bank run, everybody trying to withdraw their funds. And now that exchange, after Bankman-Fried came out on Twitter and said everything's fine and the customer's money is fine and there's no problems here, now they're filing for bankruptcy and fire selling their assets.
So this guy was a billionaire, and in the course of a day, now he's not only is he broke, he owes hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's right.
Insane stories. What we're talking about here. Total
collapse. One of the greatest, most instantaneous collapses of a fortune that we've maybe seen in human history.
So it's kind of like a Ponzi scheme. It's colossal fraud. Now overnight, this guy's considered more like a Bernie Madoff character than like a genius billionaire tech bro or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
I guess not tech, but crypto bro.
Yeah. I mean, if you go and look, there were glowing profiles of him in the New York Times. He's like this sort of he's cultivated this quirky appearance, and he's made friends with all of these legislators that he had their ear on both sides of the aisle, but in particular inroads with the Democratic Party, and now just poof, done, gone.
All gone. So yeah, and the point I made to you was, this is the story of Wall Street when it's unregulated. This is the story of Wall Street. This is exactly what happens on Wall Street when you don't have rules and regulations in place. And to your point, you said you kind of feel bad for a lot of these crypto people who fell for it, because in the wake of the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis and Great Recession, there were two schools of thought that came out of that predominantly. One of them was the Ayn Rand anarcho-capitalist libertarian mindset, which is the thing that led to this crash is all government intervention in the economy. We need to get back to a true free market, and that'd be better off. That was one way of thinking. A lot of the people who went to crypto came out of that school of thought. The other school of thought is, no, look at FDR, look at the New Deal. The problem is Wall Street isn't the smartest guys in the room. They're the greediest guys in the room, and they're getting away with murder, and we need to actually put regulations on them so that we can have a stable, secure banking system, right?
Yeah.
And look, the evidence for that is when we had Glass-Steagall in place, we had banking that was relatively stable for decades. And Glass-Steagall, for those of you who don't know, it was the separation of commercial banking and investment banking. So in other words, they're not going to do risky bets with the money that you put in your bank, and with the expectation when you go to get it, it's still going to fucking be there. So they rolled that back with the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. That was one of the major problems that helped lead to the crash. And with this crypto thing, they thought we're doing this innovative thing which is going to save the economy and give people more freedom and security, and it is the exact opposite of that. What happened was totally unregulated, and then you have the sharks who get to the top and they steal everybody's fucking money, and it's colossal fraud, and now all these people who had faith in this kind of system are left holding the bag.
Yeah, there was all kinds of utopian, idealist, almost progressive language around the promise of crypto. And I don't doubt that some of the people who were involved with it, or especially people who were originally involved in it, like might have really believed in that vision.
Of course.
And certainly some of the people who were, you know, low level investors, like they also bought into that vision. Then you layer on top of this, and this part is just disgusting. All of these fucking celebrities like doing crypto endorsements, they're getting paid in cash.
Right.
To tell you to invest in X or Y or Z coin.
Yep.
And, you know, they're running away with a bag of money and they don't really give a fuck what ultimately happens to you. They don't know whether these investments are good. I mean, obviously, many of them have already collapsed. And so, yeah, really with crypto, what you had is just a recreation of all of the worst fraud, excesses, wild, wild west, casino-like behavior of Wall Street with absolutely no federal government backstop. So at least in the normal banking system now, you know, if you put your money in a bank, you've got an FDIC guarantee, right? We didn't go back, which we should have. And this whole incident, by the way, proves that you really should have commercial banking and investment banking completely separate, because that's the genesis of this whole meltdown here ultimately. But at least there are some rules and regulations about how much capital you have to have on hand, what you have to tell people, and how this all has to go. So in crypto, there is much, much less of any sort of regulatory scrutiny. Now, to the Biden administration's credit, they've actually taken a more aggressive approach in trying to, all right, let's apply the rules of the road to the crypto markets as well. People like Elizabeth Warren have been sounding the alarm about we've got to do more in terms of regulating these markets. But I mean, the whole genesis of this was using the money that should just be sitting there in these basically brokerage accounts, stealing it to fund your risky ass bets over here,
losing it all,
and then the whole bottom falling out, and, you know, catastrophe, bank run, bankruptcy, and a lot of regular people are going to be totally fucked by this.
That's right.
Totally fucked by this.
Yeah. So anyway, crazy story, guys. The details of it are just mind-boggling, and it's time for some regulation of the crypto market. That's for sure.